Hi there. So this video is a curiosity. This video isn't really going to help you get your twin flame come to be with you or shut down the obsessive thinking or any of those things. It's just kind of interesting because how come almost all of the so-called chaser twin flames are women? Why is that? Right? How come it's almost always, not always, but it's almost 100% of the chaser twin flames are women and the runner twin flames are men? Why is that? And now there's exceptions, and you're looking at one, because I was the divine feminine, right, in quotation marks, so-called chaser. It's not really based on gender. Go watch my video called What Are Twin Flames if you want to know more about that. Gender has nothing to do with it at all. It's energy. It's energy. There's a positive polarity and there's a negative polarity. Where the whole bit about gender came from it really has its roots in I think what you would call the old school spiritual template, right? So in other words, a long time ago, thousands of years, people were trying to explain duality. And those of you that have been on my channel for a while, you already know what I'm talking about. If you're new here, you should really go watch my video called What Are Twin Flames? If you don't understand me up to this point or beyond, because you might be confused by some of the concepts that I'm talking about. I don't want to go too deep into them because I've already made so many videos about these ancient spiritual concepts. If you want to go watch this video, maybe pause this video and then go watch my video called What Are Twin Flames? I really do a very thorough explanation of all these ancient spiritual concepts and how they relate to twin flames. And I've even made it easy for you to find this video. If you just go to the main page of this channel, go to the playlists menu and look for the playlist called How to Get Your Twin Flame. And it's like the second video, What Are Twin Flames? Well, anyway, thousands of years ago, someone was trying to explain duality, okay? And the mind is duality, and the soul is singularity, right? And those of you that have been here for a while, you know the trick is to get out of the duality of mind and align with your soul, which is singularity, which is your twin flame. And again, this is an ancient teaching. It's really just traditional spiritualism. You and your twin flame are the same spirit. You are the same soul. So this is your soul journey. This is the spiritual journey. That's really all this ever was. It's not really about the person. You just have to embrace your spiritual journey. And because of that, that's when the person shows up. And it works so good. I've helped over 1,000 people. And I've got students that are married to their twin flame. I was able to attract my twin flame to me. But the duality, the way that people tried to explain that thousands of years ago, originally they used gender to explain it. So that's kind of what I was calling the old school spiritual template, right? You're trying to explain opposites, duality, and the simplest way, scientifically, we know today to explain duality is polarity, positive or negative. You know, like a magnet or a battery. You got a positive, you got a negative. This is more than, this is less than. And positive is only positive relative to negative. Negative is only negative relative to positive. So this is only small compared to this, and this is only big compared to this. They're relative. And I'm using that word on purpose to underscore that this is, something that physicists know all about, right? Einstein's general theory of relativity, for example. Relativity, duality, opposites. This is only big if there is something smaller than it. This is only small if there is something bigger than it. right? Positive, negative. And thousands of years ago, polarity and how energy, like an energy transference, takes place between two polarities, you're not going to explain that to people 5,000 years ago, you know? So somebody just said, all right, we're just going to use gender. We're just going to say man, woman, right? And people took that and they made divine feminine, divine masculine, and then, you know, later, and Plato wrote about twin flames. He did not call them that, but he wrote about them. But still, that was a long time ago. But later still than the people who came up with divine feminine and divine masculine. But Plato, he wrote about twin flames, and ever since twin flames were first observed by, like Plato, for example, people, they're kind of looking for terms that they can grab, right, from the general knowledge that humans have. And somebody, one day, they just kind of said, hey, maybe there's a correlation between this spiritual concept of divine masculine and divine feminine. And somehow they ended up intermingling divine masculine, feminine polarity teaching, the ancient teaching about those two things. And they just kind of mixed it with twin flames and said, hey, that must be how this works. You know, not really, it wasn't really empirical, but it wasn't really inaccurate either. I mean, honestly, if you think about it, it is the old school spiritual template. We are talking about opposites, but in today's science-based world, we know that it's not really gender, it's energy. It's energy. So that's kind of a detailed explanation of where divine feminine and divine masculine came from. Really, it was somebody trying to explain a long time ago to people polarity. Another term that's been used is the alpha and the omega. You saw that in the Bible, for example. The alpha and the omega. It's polarity. Now, what does this have to do with, like, why is it that the chaser is almost always a female, right? And you might think that that means, oh, it's divine feminine. It's almost always a woman that's chasing a man. So Kurt, that proves that it is based on gender, but it is not. Because if it was based on gender, it would be true 100% of the time. And anybody here watching who knows about this little thing called the scientific method, you would understand what I mean by that. Any theory can only be true if it is true 100% of the time. That's the scientific method. Something is only true if it is true 100% of the time. Okay, any like scientific theory, any basis in reality, like how does light work? What is an atom? How does that thing function? How do radio waves work? You know, whatever, right? Just any principle of science, it's a theory about that thing, which is a principle of science, right? Is only a valid theory if it's true 100% of the time. And you could get the same result 100 times, and then the 101st time that you do an experiment, if you get a different result, that disproves the whole theory. And that's the scientific method. And so it is not true that it has anything to do with gender, like why it is that one person chases and the other person runs. Why that is. It is not gender. It's energy. Again, go watch my video called What Are Twin Flames? However, why is it that it's usually a woman? That's kind of what this video is all about. Why is that? That is very curious. And I can tell you, as an experienced twin flame coach, and I've coached, again, over 1,000 people. If you want to sign up for coaching with me, it's very affordable. And if you cannot afford my already very low prices, I have payment plans. Just contact me. You can go to my website, twinflameallstar.com. newworldallstar.com might not be working right now because I'm having a new website set up, but twinflameallstar.com should still be working. But I've noticed this, like almost all of my students are women. Why? Why is that? Isn't that weird? Like, why is that? But then there's exceptions, because I've got men, and I'm a man. Like, you know, I want to say it's, I don't know, guys, 95%, but somewhere between 90 and 95% of the time, it is a woman. It is a woman that's the chaser, so-called chaser. You know, who, like after the initial breakup, who chases and who runs, right? Well, the positive polarity, as I call it, is the chaser. The negative polarity is the man. And that really is what's going on energetically between the two twins. I have done experiments with students where you can see that energetic exchange take place in metaphysically between the two people. So we know that it is true that it's polarized energy at the astral level. Again, if you don't know what I'm talking about, just go watch my video, What Are Twin Flames? But why is that? Why is it that it's almost always a woman? Still, it's not always, so we know that it's not empirically true that it's having something to do with gender, but it is most of the time, and that's very curious. That's very, very curious. Why is that? Right? It's almost always a woman. Here's another interesting thing. There's almost always a 10-year or more age gap between the two people, and it's almost always the man who is about 10 years younger, 10 or more years younger. Okay, my twin flame is 11 and a half years younger than I am. And she's the negative polarity, right? Now remember, it's not that I am positive polarity and you watching are positive polarity. And like if we're talking about you and me, you watching, all of you watching and me, and we say, here's a group of people, we are all positive polarities. That is not true. That is not how it works. It's not that I'm positive polarity and you're positive polarity. It's that I am positive relative to my twin flame. Right? I'm not positive relative to you and you're also positive relative to me. It doesn't work that way. I am positive relative to my twin flame. And your twin flame, I'm not positive relative to your twin flame. The energy can go either way between you and me, or me and your twin flame, or you and my twin flame, or my twin flame and your twin flame. The energy can go either way. It is not polarized. The energy is not polarized. Only between you and your twin flame is the energy polarized. Remember, it's relativity. I am positive energetically relative to my twin flame, who is negative energetically relative to me. It does not apply to everybody else. Only you and your twin flame. Only you and your twin flame. But why is it still that we almost always only ever see a woman? I don't know the answer, but here's some guesses. Some good guesses. A couple of possibilities. There's really two possibilities if you think about it. The first one is, for some reason, and maybe it's a function of this planet Earth, maybe on another planet out there in the cosmos, you have it where most of the time It is a man who is the positive polarity. And on Earth, for some reason, there's something about the energy here. We have it where it's almost always a woman. Why that is, I don't know. But it is that way. And so in this explanation, the first explanation, it's where we are saying, like, if you could know, what is there, 8 billion people? I think there's 7 billion people on this planet. And we're going to assume, for simplicity's sake, that half of the women, or half of the people are women and half of the people are men. And I know it's not really like that, but almost, right? We'll just say that for simplicity's sake. It's 50-50. So you've got 3.5 billion women and 3.5 billion men. And everybody has a twin flame. And I'm oversimplifying this. There's all kinds of questions you could ask in this analogy, but just go with me. If we could know who all the twin flame couples were somehow, right? Because not everybody has met their twin flame or had, I think, what's called soul activation, where your soul recognizes itself in the body of the other person, right? But let's just say everybody has, and so you could be aware of all 7 billion people on the planet and who each other's twin flame is, right? So let's say that was happening. In the first explanation, it could be that almost all of the positive polarity people were women, right? And that does seem to be the way it is. That does seem to be the way it is. Almost all the positive polarities of twin flame couples are women. So that's the first one. What if you could know who all the twin flame couples were around the whole planet out of all 7 billion people, right? Would it be, number one, where almost all the positive polarities were women, and then you would still not know why it is like that? Again, is it because of something here on Earth and it's just like that here for humans and maybe it's different somewhere else in the cosmos? Or is there some other thing about that energy being the positive polarity that makes it so that you're usually a woman? You have that tendency? You know, I don't know. Or, here's the second one. Get ready for the second theory. If we knew who all the twin flame couples in the whole world, all 7 billion people, who out of the 7 billion people were twin flame couples, because everybody is and has a twin flame, but who is each other's twin flame is the question. So if all 7 billion people were awakened to that, would you actually find that it's 50-50, where 50% of the women were positive polarity and 50% of the men were positive polarity, and vice versa. So 50% of the positive polarities are women, 50% of the positive polarities are men, and then 50% of the negative polarities are women, and 50% of the negative polarities are men. And it's all even. Would it be like that? But we can't know that. We can't know unless all twin flame couples on Earth could be observed. We couldn't know the answer to this question. So, we're at 19 minutes and I haven't answered this question. And I don't think you can. Unless you could know everybody in the whole world who each other's twin flame is. I don't think you could say empirically, if it is really true, that it is almost always a woman. I mean, we can say that. It does not have anything to do with gender, but it is true that it is almost always a woman. We can't know why that is unless we knew all the twin flame couples in the whole world. We can't know, I guess I should say, we can't know if that is true unless we could see all the twin flame couples in the world. Then we could say, yes, it is empirically true that it is almost always a woman who is the positive polarity, the chaser, and a man who is the negative polarity. And I've had twin flames where it's 2 men and 2 women. You know, there's been that too, right? So again, there are these exceptions, but generally it seems to be almost always a woman. And that is true. We can't say that it is based on gender because there are exceptions. Like I said earlier, the scientific method, it shows, it proves that you can't really say that a thing works that way intrinsically unless it works that way 100% of the time. But what we can say is that it is almost always a woman. There is a much higher instance. But again, is it? Is that true? Or is it just the twin flame couples who are meeting right now? It just so happens that it's almost always a woman is the positive polarity and a man is the negative polarity, and those twin flame couples are the ones being activated right now. Why? I don't know. We don't know for sure if it is true that all of the twin flame couples in the whole world are where it's almost always a woman is the positive polarity and it's almost always a man is the negative polarity. We do not know if that is true unless we know all twin flame couples in the world. But it sure seems that way, doesn't it? It sure seems that way. Well, anyway, there you go. It's a curiosity. I just kind of wanted to do this video for fun because it's an interesting question, and I don't think we can really empirically answer it. I mean, it seems like that's a thing most of the time. Why it is that way, I don't know, guys. I don't know. But thank you for watching. Have a nice Monday. Be safe. I'll see you tomorrow.